Good morning, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. I want to talk about another trick that I use that gives me a tactical advantage. And I know a lot of people don't understand the difference between self-defense, in which that's what I specialize in, and an offensive. When it's in self-defense, I'm protecting myself. I'm in an area that I'm familiar with. And when you're on the offensive, when you're attacking someone, you are coming into their territory. You are at a disadvantage. I know that, and they know that too. When you start training and preparing to go into other people's territory, you find it gets really, really complicated. There's lots of things that you have to keep in mind on the kind of the conditions that you're in and all this type of stuff. If you've noticed, when I work out, I wear regular clothes that I wear normally. Every time I do anything, I do it that I wear clothes normal. My weapons is the way I carry my weapons, and this type of stuff. I don't lighten my load. I don't make myself comfortable. I put myself in that kind of condition. Okay, now when I'm talking about your area, self-defense, your area, now depending on the circumstances, like I say, we're talking about the three-man militia, and you're protecting your home, or you're protecting your local community, this type of stuff. That's your local, that's your area. But it's more than that. I'm talking about the area that you are standing in right now. When I know that I'm going to get into a bad situation, and I know there's going to be some physical acts of violence going on, I want my area. I want you to come into my area, and my area consists of just a few square yards. And this, I'm going to try to attempt to show you how this is done. Okay, right now you can see this. You see these wooden poles on the ground. Okay, this is where you see me do a lot of my exercises, but you see it's triangular shaped. It's triangular shaped. That is my area. In a combat situation, that area, I will kill anybody that enters this area. And now watch, look at this area carefully, and you'll see there's a crack, and it's lifted up not quite an inch, less than an inch, and there's a little stump sticking right out there in the middle. Okay, and other than that, this is a pretty flat area. So in other words, let me see if we can make this. So in other words, this square, or this triangle area is my safe zone. We talk about zone defense and how it's one arm's reach out when somebody approaches you. In a combat situation, it would be a larger area. You got to be prepared to clear this area. As you can see, I'm able to reach this whole triangular area. And in a combat situation, you're going to have to use something. If you're not using, a tomahawk, you'll be using a shovel, a machete, a club, something, because this is the area you're going to be working in. Okay, now what the movements that I'm going to be doing will be a triangular type movements also. You see, I can go like that all the time. Triangular type movements. I come back. Everything is a triangle. I'm pivoting. Going from one space to another space. They're going like that. Forward. See, I'm moving forward. Now they're coming up behind me. Come back. Back. Okay. Now, that's why that triangular shaped area is so important. And this is my room. When you're fighting as a team, it's the same thing. They have to stay out of this area. I talk about my experience in Vietnam. Like I say, there's many, and they're continually coming. So, and it doesn't make any difference if it was like Vietnam or if it was on the street and there's 20 of them or 10 or 6 or whatever. I would still do the same type of situation. I would set up, this is the area that I'm going to be staying at. I'm not going to chase them any further out of that. They have to come into my area. The reason I'm doing it like that, I wouldn't even take an area flat like that. That area is too easily, it's easy to practice, I'll put it that way. But also, it'd be easy for them as they enter my area. This is the type of a situation that I'd be looking for. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a hole. There's a low spot right there. Let me see. You see, here's the height. And 1 foot over, it comes up about 4 inches. There's a hole right here. And this hole makes it so when someone comes in, they're coming in on level ground, and then when they get in this hole, it knocks off their balance. In other words, when they come in to fight me, see, they're coming into my area. See, they're ready for this flat ground. And as they come in, then it comes and it's slanted, so then their foot's on an angle, and so they're readjusting their body weight. And they're trying to do that while they're in combat, and that is just enough that's going to slow them down just a little bit. It's going to make them a little bit more awkward. And then same thing when they come back, they're going to be tripping over this thing and all this type of stuff. Now me, I would work this area. Remember I talked about the triangle. See, I'm in the triangle. This hole is not really in the center of my triangle, but it's on one flank of my triangle. And it's like a little gully all goes along this whole stretch right here, where it's angled like that. So it's not flat. So this whole area would make someone a little awkward when they first walk into this area. So that's going to give me a tactical advantage, because they're going to have to slow down and they're going to have to reevaluate their balance. Now you can do the same thing in dirt. Whether it's a dirt type ground, grassy, any of this type of stuff. Now, I wouldn't look for a place with a hole like, a foot deep, just like a post hole or something like that. I wouldn't look for anything like that, because same thing, in the heat of action, I could fall into that, I could step into that hole. Now, okay, yes, it's angled, and I say, when you see me do my exercises, I do it on the flat area, but I don't always do it on the flat area. I do it on this area. I'll do it in grass. The grass has got a different texture, so your footing is a little different. And these are all things, like, I would rather, if I'm surrounded by asphalt or concrete, I would step into the grass. This way, they're used to the stability of the flat surface, and then once they step into the grass, bammo, man, they just lost their footing. So, and that's why I'm looking for specific areas and where I'm going to defend myself. And it's the same thing when you're doing it, okay, on a personal level, down here on this triangle, and it'll be the same thing if you're doing your home. You have to find an area in your home that you can defend. And it's the same thing if it's your community. You have to, when you hear me talk about bottleneck, you have to make any outsiders come through a certain area. And that area, you have to be able to defend it some way or another. And that's what I was talking about, bridges. You would do a bridge, and that's because a bridge is a natural bottleneck, and it brings everybody to that certain point. And now you can get used to what you have to do at that bottleneck. And it's your area, you can prepare and you can get ready. And another little thing, I'll tell you, when I was training SWAT teams, I noticed I used, and I tried to get them to use the same thing, use trip lines. And when you use trip lines, you are, like I say, you're right back to, you're slowing everybody down, you're taking their focus. Remember, you have a plan. When you get ready to get into a violent situation, you have a plan. So now what I have to do is get your focus off of your plan. As long as you stay focused on your plan, you will be able to do it. And that's why trip lines is a very good thing. And the same thing for me, if I had the time and space and the means, I would put trip lines around this area that I'm going to be holding off. And I talked about in Vietnam how we would use dead bodies and use them like a trip line, because you have to step over them, you have to go around them, and this type of stuff. And it'd be the same thing. Anything you can do to break their concentration on what it is that they have planned, because I guarantee what they have planned isn't good for me. That's not the case. So, but it's much easier to defend than it is to attack. And when I talk about there's some tactics that work 100% of the time, this falls into that 100% of the time. That's why when I have people give me shit, when they say, well, nothing works 100% of the time. It does. And this is one of those things. And it works really good. So in other words, know your area. Even though your area is just a few square yards or a few square feet. It's not much, but in self-defense, you're only caring for the area that you're into. And even in Vietnam, even though it was a combat situation, when it got down to the nitty-gritty, all you're doing is protecting the area that you are in. We talked about the 3-man fire teams, just like the 3-man militia. We had one fighting hole, and our world was around that fighting hole, and we protected that hole. And now the next hole, and whatever happens, before, after, and around us, that's none of our concern. In time of combat, you have to be able to take care of yourself. That's why I push the 3-man militia. These 3 need to know how to work with each other. Because when the time gets tough, the only ones you have is the ones you look on both sides of you, and those two that are standing right next to you. That's all you have. But know your area. So when I'm walking down the street and I see a situation may be arising, I will move to an area that I can defend. So it'll be the same thing. I'm going to stay in that area. So my body gets used to that area that I'm in. Everybody else is going to have to come into my area and get used to it, giving me the tactical advantage, speed and accuracy, and I can survive. This is Mike, NoStressMike.com.